Hi, so in this video we are going to be looking at Republican government policies in 1920s America and how the government sort of contributed to the boom in the 1920s and how they allowed the American economy to prosper, and why they did that, and what the attitude of Republicans is sort of when they're suited to be in power and when they're not. Okay, and I do mean that as a not as a personal thing, as a group. When does their attitude suit and when should it be democratic? Okay, so we need to know then what Republicans sort of where they stand on the political spectrum, just to give you an understanding of sort of a little comparison of where we are today. So if we have a political spectrum, so this is our left wing and this is our right wing. The left wing, the more extreme on the left side is communism. So for example, Russia today is communist, China is communist. On the extreme right wing, we have Nazism. So obviously Hitler and the totalitarian sort of government, dictatorships. Although not all dictatorships are are the Nazi type. You do have communist dictators. That's a different lesson. But just for our context, then we've got right wing in our country at the moment is the Conservatives. And then on the left, you've got Labour. Somewhere more in the middle, but further left leaning, and then right leaning, you've got the Lib Dems. And in America, I'll do this in a different colour just to make it a bit clearer. The Republicans are kind of the conservative equivalent, and the Democrats are the sort of Labour equivalent. That's to give you a very sort of rough understanding of where Republicans sit on the spectrum and what their ideals are. So they're more conservative, they're more traditional, they're more business minded, they're more sort of get on with it, right? If you know how to do something, they just let you get on with it. You've got to make your own way, you know, that kind of thing. So Republicans, to give you modern day, Trump was a Republican when he was in. We now have Joe Biden, who is a Democrat. So that's where Republicans sit on the spectrum. So where Republicans suit is when things are going well. You want a government who, when, as in the 1920s, the economy is doing well, the people are prospering, that allow that to happen. And they allow businessmen to be businessmen, to conduct their business, and they don't get too involved, because sometimes they are, sometimes governments and presidents are businessmen, but they are for politicians. Where you will want the Democrats to lead is when things aren't going so well and you need that state intervention. You need somebody to direct the movement of the economy, to direct the movement of work and labour and those kinds of things, of spending and national security and interaction with different countries. So in the 1920s, when America is isolationist, they are looking after themselves. They're doing really well because of how they prospered from World War I. They're doing really well because of the boom, mass production, businessmen are being businessmen, and things are going smoothly. And the government really wants that to carry on. So let's have a look at what they did. In the 1920s, we've got three different Republican presidents who we'll have a look at in a second. They are Warren Harding, Calvin Coolidge, and Herbert Hoover. Now, Hoover's the last one, and he gets beat by a Democrat in 1932, which we'll have a look at much later on. So the government should leave the economy alone. The economy should be dealt with by people who know how to run the economy, economists and businessmen. So they adopted a laissez-faire, which means a free market, non-intervention policy. Just let them get on with it. Now, this is a very, very, very important phrase. Please, for the sake of your teacher, learn how to spell it. Okay, it might just be one of those things that you just need to write out and out and out over and over again until you get it right, because it's really important. It's a really, really key phrase in this course. Laissez-faire is something that you need to know. Okay, so there are three policies. I'm just going to go down a little bit to this one so we can carry on with our presidents. So we've got at this very start, and if you've done the conflict and tension 1918 to 1939 course, you will have heard of Woodrow Wilson before. So he is a Democrat, and he is in until 1921. So he takes America into war. So you can see why they change parties. We do often see after a war, like we had in this country after World War II, a change from one party to another, because you don't want a government who led you into war to necessarily bring you out of it, because you need sort of different priorities. Warren Harding, 1921 to 1923, was a Republican. He gave important jobs to his friends, who were sometimes corrupt, not unheard of in government, even still today. A popular president who concentrated on getting America back to normalcy after the war. He wants people to work for their own success, and that's a very Republican viewpoint there. So 1923 to 1929, we've got Calvin Coolidge. Again, it's a good name, that, isn't it? He's a Republican. Americans should concentrate on working hard and building up businesses. So you can see how these presidents take us through various stages. So we're recovering here, we're working hard, then we're building up this business from 1923 to 1929. And he said that the chief business of the American people is business. And that's very much sums up what's going on in the 1920s. Then we've got Herbert Hoover. Unfortunate time to be a Republican in 1929, as we'll see, because of the Wall Street crash. So he believed that Americans should work hard for themselves and not rely on anyone, including the government, for help, right? So Democrats are more about helping people to help themselves, or just helping people. The Republicans are there to just tell you to work hard and get on with it. Hoover is not popular at all, because when the market crashes in 1929, people need help, and the Republicans are not there to give it, which is why we then switched to a Democratic government in 1933. The election is in 1932. All of this will obviously make sense as we go further through the course. So their policies then in the 1920s, the first one that we just spoke about with Hoover, rugged individualism. Each individual should be able to help themselves out. Now this, I'm not going to get political here, but this just doesn't work for everybody. It works for some people. Obviously, it depends on you and your family and your connections and all sorts of things. But the government does not need to involve itself in people's economic lives, nor in national economics in general. So when we look at inequalities of wealth, we'll really see why this worked for some and why this didn't for others. Because if you're poor, you are staying poor, because the government is not going to help you to build yourself up. So laissez-faire. So we've spoken about that before. The autonomous character of the economic order. All that means is letting businessmen be businessmen and get on with it. Believing that government should intervene as little as possible in the direction of economic affairs. Then we've got the tariff policy, a list or table of duties or customs payable on the importation or exportation of goods. I'll talk about this more in a second. The Republicans increased tariffs on imported goods to encourage Americans to buy only American products. Right, now you get my really good drawings of a chocolate bar. I'm going to go with purple, because you would choose Cadbury's over Hershey's. Right, so we've got a chocolate bar, I know, and we've got another chocolate bar. Right, this one ignore the fact that one's bigger than the other, that wasn't meant to happen. This one is American, right? This one is from Europe. Now, this one in the shop is $1. I'm making these numbers up. This one in the shop is $5. You're going into the shop to buy a bar of chocolate. Forget the fact that American chocolate is horrible. Pretend they're both a nice chocolate bar. You are going to pick this one, right? And the reason that they've done this is by putting these tariffs and by increasing the price of European chocolate, even though they're only getting $1, because they're only getting $1 from both of these, this dollar goes straight back into the American economy. Okay, they're keeping the money, they're keeping themselves isolationists, they're keeping their money within their own economy. Now, the problem with this is that if you're Europe, you're going to do exactly the same thing. So what Europe do is they also increase their tariffs, which comes back to bite America in the bum in the 1930s. But that is what you're going to do. You're going to buy the cheaper chocolate bar and you're going to keep that money within America rather than allowing that money to go to Europe. Okay. So they do help businesses. So the Ford-New-Macumber Tariff Act puts high tariffs up to 400%, actually. There's a little figure for you there. Up to 400% on goods coming in. So that protects American business because of what we've just said here. People are going to buy American products if imports, things that are being brought in from other countries, have a bigger price on them. So foreign produced goods are more expensive. So when faced with the choice of an expensive foreign car or handbag or a cheaper American made one, customers would usually choose the one product in their own country, exactly as we've just said with the chocolate bars. So the government also cut taxes paid by rich people and companies so they could start more companies and create more jobs. Okay, so low taxes, you keep more of your own money. That's absolutely fine when the government doesn't need money to do things like go to war or education, you know, things like that. Low taxes also meant people had more money to spend on the vast range of goods on offer. So remember things that we said in the last video. So things like washing machines, fridges, cars, radios, you know, these new consumer goods that are being made. Further, the leading political parties in the 1920s believed that the policy of laissez-faire, please learn to spell that word, all those words, they felt that businesses should be left alone to get on with the process of creating wealth. Okay, so they advertising moves on a lot in the 1920s as well. So we've got colourful billboards. So we see billboards in this country as well. Newspapers, magazines. So they're encouraging people to buy the latest gadget. This is something we're so used to advertising now, but it was a new thing in the 1920s because people suddenly had things to sell and they had money to buy. So try and get your head around that this is very new. This advertising in magazines and things is new. So they could get catalogues come to their doors. You could buy anything from a coffee cup to a tractor. So we've got adverts now in cinemas and radios, again, something that we're really, really used to and is really annoying, but it's part of our everyday lives now, and it wasn't then. So this is all new because they're trying to get people to spend their money. Buy now, pay later, which I spoke about in the last video. They could pay for goods in small installments over a fixed period, and this is also called hire purchase. 6 out of 10 cars were bought this way because not very many people have enough money in the bank to just go out one day and buy a car and still be able to live. Okay, so loads of things going on to keep the economy working for itself and to keep America in this boom going. All right, so in the next couple of videos, we'll have a look at where that doesn't go so well. But hopefully that's been useful to you. Please check out the rest of the videos in this course if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one.